Angelo is a senior theology major who will be giving a presentation entitled Diamond Jesus, Beauty, Kitsch, in the World of Memes. Give it up for Angelo.
Hi. I feel a little bit lonely up here. If you guys could move up, there's so many seats. Beautiful couches. We have great blessings here in this place. So, as always, we begin with a prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of Diamond Jesus. Like I said, my name is Angelo Canta, and this is genuinely a true story. I had a cousin who, when he was 3 or 4, misheard the ending bit of the first verse of the Hail Mary, and if you get the, you sort of get the Filipino accent. Diamond Jesus. So it's like, it was Christmas time, we were laughing, there were drinks, it was hilarious. But then I thought, I think I know Diamond Jesus. Like, I think I've seen Diamond Jesus. I don't know if you've experienced this, very beautiful, well, we'll get there. Very, sort of pleasant picture of the Sacred Heart, and it's like, the light is pouring from Jesus, kind of like this. Yeah? We're familiar? Then I was like, okay, well, the diamond part needs to come out, right? And I was like, well, bedazzled Sacred Heart is also important. And because we're Catholics and because I am who I am, we must never forget the Blessed Mother. She's so pretty. She's so pretty. And so Diamond Jesus and his mother, Bedazzled Mary, really belong to the world of Catholic Kitsch. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. This is the sort of phenomenon in cultural Catholicism of images and paintings and statues and holy cards and a whole host of trinkets that are mass-produced and designed for sentimentality, right? I think it's pretty easy to identify kitsch. There are 3 hallmarks of what kitsch is versus what sacred art is. The first is that it's easily consumed because it is highly inexpensive, right? I could have taken this picture. There's literally hundreds of stores like this in Rome, where I was studying abroad. And it's the kind of mass-produced statues of Mary and of Jesus and everything that are really popular. The second hallmark is that it is highly sentimental, right? Just like, look at their faces, like you just want to cry with them. Just like, Mary looks so sweet and innocent. And then the last hallmark of Catholic Kitsch is its superficiality when it comes to engagement with the divine. This is my favorite image of the whole presentation. Do we all know who Saint Anthony of Padua is? Saint Anthony of Padua is a fantastic saint. Sort of more popularly known for his ability to find lost things for us. Kind of weird. So this is a devotional item that you can buy online. Literally, this is on Amazon. Where when you lose something, part of your prayer will be to take the baby Jesus from Saint Anthony's arms, ransom him, kidnap him, in this little box here, right? Until Saint Anthony has provided for you whatever it is that you lost, your car keys, your bills, or whatever it is. And I'm like, theology major, like, I don't know if that's how intercession of the saints works. Don't know if that's like what we're really doing. So basically you understand, right, like what Catholic Kitsch is. If you've seen Catholic Kitsch before, you understand what I'm talking about. Nod your heads, yes. Thank you. And I was thinking also that, like, for our generation of Catholics, for my generation of Catholics, maybe kitsch is not as present to us. So as any good millennial would, I went to the internet to find our equivalent of Catholic Kitsch, and I introduce you to the world of Catholic memes. Again, St. Anthony, don't know if that's how it works. Easter eggs, not a very historic tradition in the Catholic Church. Anyway, so Catholic memes, like the memes of any variety really, are these viral internet sensations that consist mainly of jokes designed for a specific target audience, namely Catholics. And I want to just show you some of my favorites that I've seen. You get it? Canonized. Because the cannonball. Thank you, Loyola. You've been great. What is the next one that I have? I don't remember. Oh, I love this one. So good. Reading from the Gospel of John. Boom. Just, it was so good. And sometimes the world of kitsch and the world of memes coincide. Love this. Like, that's the Jesus you're waiting for on Easter. We're all so excited. And, you know, the hallmarks of Catholic kitsch culture, I think, can be really applied to Catholic meme culture, right? They're very highly accessible. And a lot of people, sort of in droves, go to these websites. If you visit the Facebook pages, or if you visit the different Tumblrs and websites that are dedicated to Catholic memes, you notice that there's hundreds and thousands of hits every day, millions and millions of shares. People are really into this stuff. And certainly, it's hard to say that Catholic memes are sentimental, but they still give you that staccato experience of humor, right? Like you're looking through your Instagram feed or you're looking through your Facebook feed, and then you see the image of boop. And it's like funny, and you have that heightened experience, and then you're still scrolling through your feed. And finally, I think they only present a very superficial understanding of what the faith can be. And so the reason I'm talking about memes and kitsch is because these are the worlds I really live in. I feel like I have to confess that to you. So embarrassing. I was a part of the online community in high school that made these memes. Yeah, I was really cool in high school. You know, I would sort of like create these GIFs of different things and share it among my friends, and it would sort of blow up. And also, I live in the world of kitsch. I love kitschy sort of objects. I did my whole year abroad researching Marian devotion in Italy and in China, and I came back literally with suitcases full of kitsch. You can come over to my house anytime and we'll go through it all. But it's, so like I live in these worlds, but I've realized recently that there are a lot of dangers that I have associated with meme culture and with kitsch culture. And I think the first danger is that both phenomena reduce and distract from the Catholic tradition of beautiful art. Catholicism takes sacred art very seriously because we have this sacramental imagination that disposes us to see within visible objects signs and symbols of the invisible divine. And so the function of Catholic art is not only to be some pretty wall decorations, right? Catholic art, if it is beautiful, is meant to teach important theological truths, especially when we think about the history of Catholicism as being really a faith for the illiterate. That art functioned as a teaching tool, a way to tell stories. It is also meant to cause you to wonder and to meditate on the mysteries of God. And finally, I think it gives us a chance to really sit with the difficulties and paradoxes of Catholicism. And so the problem with kitsch is that it fails to do these things. Kitsch doesn't really teach us much of anything other than perhaps that Mary was this sort of docile, innocent creature just waiting for the divine to come to her. And that Jesus was this beautiful, very masculine European man with long flowing hair, both of which are not theologically or historically true, right? And really problematic for the people who can afford kitsch, right? Really problematic for the people who don't look like kitschy Mary and Jesus, which is the majority of people. And I think it really distracts us from contemplating mystery and contemplating the divine because it's so superficial. You understand it from the onset. You understand, like, oh, that's a plaster Virgin Mary, I get it. You're not understanding, or you're not called to understand Mary's motherhood of the church, for example, or how she mediates grace. And I think, worst of all, is that kitsch allows us to ignore the tragedy of life and the tragedy of Catholicism. If you remember that image of Jesus in the Sacred Heart, looking longingly into the distance, and that's your only idea of Jesus, what do you do then with the Jesus who is coming up next week, who dies on the cross, who is tortured and killed by the state, who is denied by his followers? What do we do with that? And then what do we do with the tragedy and the reality of paradoxes in our own life? And I think for me, memes function in the same way. Rather than allowing for someone to think deeply about theology or the function of Catholic art, memes present a particular narrative of Catholicism. And because of this particular understanding of Catholicism, you don't really get the tension, you don't really get the paradox of life as a Catholic. You only get one view. And both sort of really, really move away from and ignore the long tradition of iconography, of statues, of paintings, of literature, of theater, of poetry. These are the hallmarks of the Catholic intellectual tradition and the hallmarks of the Catholic artistic tradition. And so the second danger, and to me what is the most damaging about kitsch and meme Catholicism, is that they tend to be exclusionary. For how accessible and easily consumable plastic statues of the Virgin Mary or Jesus are, and how easy it is to share memes about the Latin Mass, it seems to me that they're only accessible for the in-group. It is my conviction that beautiful art, like beauty itself, can be universally recognized as beautiful. This isn't so much about taste, right? Like, we can all have our different aesthetics and we can all have our different understandings of what we think is pleasing, but beauty touches people across generations, across cultures, across religion, across creed, across any type of things that would inhibit one from entertaining or engaging with beauty. And so I'm thinking about, specifically when I was in Beijing, I took 2 Chinese friends to Beitang, which is it's the North Church. There are 4 principal churches in Beijing, Catholic ones. This is the North one. It was built by the Jesuits in the 18th century. So you can see the mix of European style with the Chinese style, right? And I would consider this really beautiful. And inside too, I don't have any pictures of the inside, but the ways in which Catholic sensibility is developed in the European and Chinese style really moved my 2 friends, who one was a Buddhist and one was an agnostic. And they talked about how it was specifically about the architecture and the paintings that allowed them to feel comfortable praying and sitting with all these people who they didn't really know or they didn't really believe in the same things. And so I think that this experience of beauty would not have happened with memes or with kitsch, right? They're not designed for people who don't speak the Catholic language. They're designed for people who already know who Jesus and Mary are, who may already have a relationship with Jesus and Mary, right? And so art has to be, in my mind, beautiful art has to be a tool for evangelization. It has to be a tool for encounter. And I think kitsch and memes fail to do that. So when we're thinking about lasting beauty in this segment, I really want to think about how inadequate kitsch and memes tend to be when we relate them to beauty. And so, to conclude, I would like to make it clear that if you're like me and you like the kitsch and sometimes dabble in meme culture, we're not bad Catholics, right? Like, it's okay. Like, we speak the language, it's fine. I only want to say that we have to be very careful and vigilant about making sure that our faith is sustained and enlivened by other things. And so as we come up on Holy Week, I think this is really perfect. As we come up on Holy Week, we can have our Damen Jesus and we can have our bedazzled Mary. But also, give me the Jesus that suffers on the cross, right? In a world that is suffering. Give me a Jesus I can relate to when I'm going through hardships. Give me a Mary that is holding the dead Christ child in her hands. When we think about so many people who have lost their loved ones, so many mothers who have lost their children all across the world, give me a Mary and Jesus who don't look like the Mary and Jesus that we're given in kitsch culture. Give me the disciples waiting in anticipation in the upper room as I myself am experiencing these anxieties of like, what's gonna happen next in the world? What's gonna happen next in my life? And finally, give me the resurrection, right? Our hope and our strength. Thank you all.
I have a follow-up question to your second point, one of the most damaging things about kitsch culture, or as we're saying back here, kitsch and memes, or kitchen memes.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Molly. Thanks for that, Molly. So in the same way that icons and stained glass back when, and today, when the illiterate, we're speaking to people through images, through this, do you not think that in a similar way that this kitschy, fun, like meme stuff is speaking to a particular audience? I think the people that laughed first in the room were the people that understood, oh, Jesus is coming again. Oh, haha, I read the Bible once, question mark, things like that. You kind of have to be there to get it. Is it building community rather than being exclusive? For certain communities, I would say.
Sure. So I think maybe the question is like, can kitsch function not as kitsch, right? If kitsch only functions as a superficial thing, can kitsch items function as art for people? And I think the answer is yes. I've actually met people and am related to people who, for whom the sacred art that they have in their home can be considered kitschy. And certainly it's true, I think, of more poor places, that perhaps all that they can afford or all that is given to them is kitsch. And I think that's fine, but I think somehow we as church betray them if that's all we're giving them, right? To say that the poor, to say that the people from my country specifically don't deserve the sacred art or can't make the sacred art on their own, I think is a betrayal of the tradition of art that we have. And so I think certainly kitsch can be devotional and it can cause somebody to pray. But I think the temptation is really there not to. And that if we're gonna give people art and if we're gonna give people sacred art, give them the best. And that we should continue to make the best. Yeah.
Any other questions?
So as you were presenting, especially towards the end, you were talking about visiting the church in China. And I was kind of thinking, in terms of real life experiences, like that experience was something that's very like high Catholic art, like high culture, like if you were to allude it to your experiences. But then I want to draw kind of the connection between kind of like kitsch or like even like small niche experiences. Like I think when I went to like the National Catholic Youth Conference, it was a very particular kind of experience, but it's something which allowed my faith to grow. But it's also something that's really difficult to communicate to other people why that was something that made my faith grow. So I'm wondering if you have any of those like niche experiences that you can attach to like kitsch culture, that's something that helped your faith grow, but something you can't always explain to others. And then if you have advice on how to make these faith experiences more universally beautiful for other people to share.
Wow, that's a really good question. I would say that the first memory that comes to mind also happened in China. China's a really life-changing place. And I was doing my research on Marian devotion, and part of the thing that I wanted to ascertain was what was Italy's picture of Mary, and what was China's picture of Mary. And I kept pushing that question to these Chinese people that I was meeting. And they were really lovely and very patient, until finally one of the priests who I was talking to said, you know, you keep asking us, do you like Guadalupe better? Do you like Lourdes better? Do you like Fatima better? Do you like whatever better? And that doesn't really matter to us. This is what he said to me. Mary is one person. It doesn't matter what she looks like. It doesn't matter what the depiction is. We have a relationship with her. And I was floored by that. I really was, because I had come in thinking, you know, like, oh, I wonder if their faith is sort of really, hindered by the lack of catechesis that they got, or the lack of support that they get from their country. And I was floored because they had reminded me of the reality of sacred art, that it points us to an objective reality. It points us to that which is divine or that which is holy, and that we shouldn't get stuck there. And so I think, I don't know if this really answers your question, but to not get stuck in any experience, whether it be this high culture thing or niche experiences, and to move through that into a more universal experience. How can you share with your brothers and sisters, or how can you share with the people around you what it's like to be who you are, what it's like to be Catholic? Yeah.
Thank you, Angelo.
Thank you.